Before we dive deep into coming up with what are the specific slides you create for your pitch deck, I want to some best practices around good slide decks. One is you're trying to tell a story with your deck. You're not trying to tell every detail of the business plan, how you're manufacturing something and all the details. And this is where a lot of entrepreneurs get in trouble, is they try to really show every detail, and that's not what the purpose is. The purpose of a pitch deck is to sell your idea, not to explain everything. The next thing is that visuals are great, but avoid clip art. If you're not good with graphics, you don't know how to make it pretty, just keep it simple, down and dirty, with a couple, great bullet points with just a few words each. The next thing is data is king. If you know specific numbers about the size of your market, conversion ratios, if you already have traction numbers, you've got your site up or you're selling products, make sure you list real data. That's really important. Your entire pitch deck that's filled with what we'll call fluff, which is a lot of nice information but not real details, really turns off investors. Try to avoid industry jargon or overly technical terminology in your pitch deck. You never know who you're talking to, and most investors will not be experts in your space. So bring it down to the average person's level. You can use some business terminology that's common, but try to avoid that's really specific, and acronyms and abbreviations specific to your industry. If you have a product, make sure you show it. Not necessarily in person, but make sure you at least have real pictures of it. Even if it's just a wireframe of your website, show me what you think it's going to look like. People connect with that, and that's an important component of a pitch deck, is that I can tangibly get an idea of what you're trying to do. Just as you can't say everything about your business plan in a pitch deck, you also aren't going to be able to cover every possible risk and issue that is. So if there's real risks in your business, which there should be if it's a startup, you're innovating, you're going, just acknowledge it, make sure it's there in the pitch deck, and move on. You can deal with more detailed ones in the Q&A section after your presentation. Now, you may be in a presentation and know that you're going to need details for Q&As, but it doesn't really fit into the pitch deck. This is where appendixes are good for. You can have as many as you want on a pitch deck, and this can be smaller type. This isn't meant for presentation. This is reference material. So in the case you're pitching, and an investor at the end or potential investor says, hey, I'm really curious about your market sizing. Where did you come up with that? You can go, well, let's go to page 13, the appendix F, and I can show you my calculus of how I came with it. In the pitch deck, you only want to give what is the number you're aiming for, your market share. But in appendixes, you can have all those details about your business plan and really anything else you need. The last key component. Be prepared to revise and iterate your deck every time you talk to someone. Now don't take everything by verbatim of what every investor says, because they're all going to have different opinions of what they like and don't like. But just like when your customers give you feedback, you have to decide, what do I want to do with, what feedback do you want to take and implement? Do it with your deck. Just because you've spent maybe weeks developing it, maybe months developing it, don't think it's your baby, it's untouchable. Be willing to challenge it and break it apart. And if you're not getting meeting requests after presenting it, it doesn't work. You got to find something different.